this is good timing. So we're still on the power of regret. And so just to review from what we said the other day, the reason to regret is because of our understanding of karma. It's the idea that we can't bear the thought of our future suffering that then kind of impels us to want to purify the actions that we've brought to mind. And so in that, talking about how to sort of learn to regret correctly in a way that really propels our purification, we examine the action, or we examine, just like I just did, we try to examine what was the affliction that was in my mind. You know, what's coming up here? And so this requires, Yangtze Rinpoche really put his finger on it. He said, if you can have all the information about karma in the world, but if we don't have mindfulness and introspection, we won't have any purification because we haven't noticed what we've done. So this is a real key thing too, is to bring our mindfulness about what are the actions to be abandoned? What are the negative actions? What are the actions that we want to have? What are the beneficial ones? What are the afflictions that arise in my mind that cause me to do negative actions? And so to really learn to identify them, to think about them, and bring that mindfulness and introspection into our daily activity so that we know when we should purify and what. So this analysis is really helpful if we're doing that on the cushion, if we're trying to like look at regret of past actions and take the action apart. What was I thinking? What motivated me to do that? Where was that coming from? So we lay the action bare. We open it up, we take a look, and the more we look, over time we start to expose the real culprit. Culprit, the real doer of the deed, which is what? Our self-cherishing mind. That mind that is grasping at the self, and then immediately the mind that pops up and says, and my happiness is the most important. That's when the affliction overtakes our mind and we engage in the actions that then we're now purifying. Right? So the more we can analyze and start to see that, then we start to separate our identity from the self-centered attitude. We begin to see it's not, I am a bad person, but look, there's a factor in my mind that causes me to do things that I later regret. So this helps us work with the guilt part, and it also helps us really cultivate the sense that the enemy is not outside, but the enemy is really that self-centered thought that so propels us. So this is one of the great benefits of spending that time with regret. Another thing about sort of regretting correctly or regretting properly is to pay attention to what is our motivation for regret. Sometimes you can get in there and start looking at a situation and the whole thing becomes, oh my gosh, I said that terrible thing. What are they going to think about me? They're never going to care about me again. They're not going to let me have this job again. They're not going to promote me because my language is so harsh and da 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 da. And you can spend a lot of time regretting in that way. But is that regret? Really? No. That's again all about me. That's going after the 8 worldly concerns of being concerned for my reputation. So if we take the same instance and regret because there was affliction arising or I harmed something else or for sure I will get the same result, which I don't like, if that all comes back to me too, then we've analyzed it from a different place, but it's not all about me. You see the difference? Yeah. And so this is a place where the mind that feels really guilty can get quite hung up if we're looking at a motivation for regretting because it's bad for my reputation or I look bad or I hurt people and now they hate me. That may be true and that may be painful. But underneath that, we have the realization that we have engaged in an action consumed by an affliction and have created it for ourselves a lot of future suffering. Okay? So then this is just like the first half of the first line of that first paragraph that we're talking about here. Reflect on the negative actions that you've done. And the second half of that first sentence, I don't have it in front of me, but it says something like, both the ones you can recall and the ones from the previous life that you can't remember. So this takes us into a whole nother realm of things that we can regret. And His Holiness has a very interesting way of thinking about it. He says, you know, you may doubt whether past negative actions have left an imprint on your mind. But he says, try this experiment. If you just look at your mind for a little while and notice how acting constructively, doing a positive action, our motivation is usually quite weak. You know, we're distracted. Say we're making water bowl offerings. We're distracted. We're not very present. We forget to dedicate the merit at the end. He says, acting positively requires much effort on our part, like a tired donkey carrying a heavy load up a hill. That's the weight that we carry when we're trying to do our positive actions. So on the other hand, when we have circumstances that come up when acting negatively would immediately fulfill our desire, then our body, speech, and mind are totally absorbed in doing that action. They do it easily, he says, like water running down a hill. Very easily, mind just goes, phew, and away we go. So he says this is an indication that we are habituated more to negative actions than we are to constructive actions. And this, he says, is a sign, of course, that we've been doing this in previous lives. So since beginningless time, they say, we've done everything, we've been everything. And so to begin to take a look at what is our habit now? Where did that come from? What might I have done in the past? What might I have done in a life before that? So take the example of our killing the mosquito the other day. The same mind that easily goes whack without a thought is the same kind of mind that in the right circumstance can be off with their head, you know, and you have legions of people as the king or as the queen that you just offed for the same reason that you would smash a mosquito. So we can get our imagination in play here a little bit and start to look at what are my mental habits now? Where could that have come from? What could I have done in the past? What kind of actions am I habituated to? And let's say, like, one thing I think about a lot is how many times have I been a soldier?
Did I be
A soldier.
soldier?
Like in the history of human world, how many times have we been soldiers? Willingly, unwillingly, engaging in, you know, actions that we wanted to do or didn't want to do, but these kinds of things come up again and again and again. And what kind of mind habits might have come from that? So let's go back and purify this life, and this life, and this life, and this life. So you can really spend some time working on eons of our negative actions through doing this practice. So tomorrow we'll get to the second paragraph there.